Welcome to science class. This week we are having a pretty normal week. So you'll do some guided notes, some Cornell notes, and then a project this week. And the topic is watersheds. So why should we care about water? Well, we use water every single day, and so do plants and animals out in the environment. So when we sat outside last week for our outside observation, think about all the trees and plants that were out there that all need water. And even though we didn't see too many animals, there would definitely be animals back there that need access to good, clean drinking water. In order to make our fruits and vegetables look really good at the grocery store, it unfortunately requires a lot of chemicals. So the two biggest ones are fertilizers and pesticides. And so fertilizers are going to be used to make the plants and vegetables and fruits grow, and pesticides are going to be used to keep things like bugs and fungus and other rotting things from attacking the fruits and vegetables. And if it rains, then all those things that get sprayed on the field are going to be in our drinking water after just a day or two. Animal waste also enters our water. So if there's farms nearby with cows or pigs or chickens, all of that is going to also kind of make its way to our drinking water. And believe it or not, Louisville is actually surrounded by farms. So if you got on Google Maps and typed in farms, you would see one directly across from Westport. So it's kind of hidden by trees. But if you look directly across from Westport Road, there's usually a hillside full of cows just sitting there. And then a little bit further away, there's a big farm right behind Oxmoor, which is called Oxmoor Farm. And there's also just a lot of other ones spread out throughout the county, just behind neighborhoods and maybe hiding behind tree lines too. Another thing that can contaminate our water is called a pig poop lagoon. And this is really common in the South. And there's a sky view of it. So it's kind of like a red lake, but it's not a lake you would definitely not want to swim in or drink or be anywhere near. Usually it stays pretty self-contained, but it does flood every once in a while in Kentucky and other parts of the South. And when that happens, then some of that will make its way into our drinking water, which is pretty gross. So animal poop and farm fertilizers, both together, are sources of nitrogen, and plants love nitrogen. And so one of the really common ones that you could see is algae. And so during the summertime, you can see algae, or this thing called an algae bloom, on top of the water or ponds or lakes. And it's because there's just too much nitrogen in the water, and it makes them kind of go crazy and grow a lot more than they're supposed to. Other things in our water are going to be caused by humans. So any kind of industrial or factory things are going to unfortunately have bad chemicals that are a byproduct of that. And so with us being in Kentucky, a really common one is coal, or like waste from coal mining. And so you can see a map of Kentucky right there, and you can see the dark green areas are counties that have like really high coal production. And if you need proof that this does actually affect us and get in our drinking water, if you look at that map of where coal is mined and produced and compare it to cancer rates in Kentucky, you'll actually see like a pretty good overlap. So you can see all of Eastern Kentucky right there has pretty high rates of cancer. And then there's the map of where we mine for coal. So they look pretty related. They're very similar. Okay. So out of all of Earth's water, 97% of it is salt water, and it's just going to be found in oceans and seas. Only 3% of the Earth's water is drinkable. So that's what you call fresh water. And then out of that 3%, only 1% of it is available for us to drink. The other 2% that's fresh is going to be found in ice caps. And so it's just not very likely or very feasible for us to get frozen water from the North Pole or South Pole. So that makes clean drinking water a really rare thing on the planet. And there's the water cycle. So you probably studied the water cycle in 5th or 6th grade, depending on the school or maybe the school district you were in. So it is worth just looking at that and just kind of making sure you understand the main like stops or steps in the water cycle. And then just the only thing for my class that I would need for you to know is just that water doesn't go away. It might go to a different place in the water cycle, but it's never leaving the cycle. So it's always going to be in the earth, and no new water is created. So it's just the same water molecules cycling through the earth just over and over again. So that brings us to our kind of the main topic or the word of the week, and that's called a watershed. And so a watershed is just an area where all the water in an area drains to the same spot. And so when you think of watershed, don't think of it as like a building. Think of it more like how a reptile sheds its skin. So think of it kind of like rolling off of something, and not like it's a house or a building. And so if we take an imaginary little plot of land right there, it's got a like a river down the middle, and you've got mountains and stuff and a rain cloud. The watershed for this area is everything inside the yellow. So it should kind of make sense that just any kind of raindrop that falls inside the yellow is all going to make its way down to the creek in the middle. And if it falls on the outside of the yellow, it's going to flow down to some other creek or stream or river that's just off the screen that we can't see. And so watersheds can be big or little. So you can see on the screen there, that's the Mississippi River watershed. And then inside of that, there's a couple of other ones. So there's also a Ohio River watershed. There's a Mississippi River, a Missouri River, and an Arkansas River watershed. And then even within the Ohio River one, there's other smaller ones. So it's kind of like a nesting doll, or kind of like a watershed within watershed kind of thing. Some of the other things that are in our water that I didn't mention earlier are here. So besides fertilizers and pesticides, you've also got insecticides. There's oil and grease and other toxic chemicals from parking lots. So if you were to look at the parking lot on your way out of school or into school, there's always little like oil droplets on there. Sediment, road salt. So if we have like a cold day and they put down salt to keep the roads from freezing, all that salt eventually makes its way into water. Then you've got bacteria, nitrogen, and even air pollutants can end up in the water. So there's quite a concoction of stuff in water. Even if you look at the creek behind school or something, it seems really simple and peaceful. But there's just a lot going on in our water right now. So the biggest problems right now, we've got nitrogen, like super high levels of nitrogen, high levels of phosphorus, fecal bacteria, industrial chemicals. And so those are things that are in all of our water, just pretty much around the whole country. It's not just like a big city thing. So it's not just like New York, LA, Chicago, or other countries in the world that are having that problem. It's everywhere. Okay, so from here on out, that's all for your guided notes. And so you would take a break if you need to for a minute, and then switch over to your Cornell notes. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.